Somewhere beneath the Saudi desert, seawater is disappearing, not evaporating, not spilling, vanishing on purpose by the billions of gallons, pumped hundreds of miles from the coast into the sand. No crops grow here, no cities depend on it, and yet, every single day, enough seawater to fill entire lakes is drawn from the Arabian Gulf and forced underground, deep beneath one of the driest landscapes on Earth. For decades, engineers have guarded the details of this operation. Satellite images show pipelines stretching across empty desert, connecting the coast to locations that appear, on the surface, to be nothing at all. Local workers speak of pressure gauges monitored around the clock, of pumping stations larger than small towns, of an operation so massive it rivals some of the biggest water systems on the planet. But this isn't a desalination plant. It isn't for drinking water. It isn't for farming. So where is all that seawater actually going? And why would one of the richest nations on Earth spend billions of dollars moving ocean water into a desert with no rivers, no lakes, and seemingly nothing waiting to receive it? The answer lies beneath the sand, in a place most people have never heard of. And what's happening down there may be one of the largest hidden engineering operations on the planet. The story begins on the shores of the Arabian Gulf, near the industrial city of Jubail. Here, massive intake pipes reach into the water, wide enough for a man to walk through standing upright. Fishermen in the area noticed it first. Boats that once passed freely through certain channels began rerouting around new restricted zones. Security fences appeared almost overnight. One local fisherman, who had worked these waters for over 20 years, said he'd never seen intake pipes this large, not even at the nearby desalination plants he'd grown up around. Something about the scale felt different. Truckloads of construction equipment moved inland for months, disappearing into the desert along a single guarded road. No signs, no explanations. Just checkpoints. Engineers flown in from overseas were reportedly housed in a private compound, cut off from nearby towns. Rumors spread quickly. Some said it was a new military installation. Others whispered about a secret power plant. A retired oil worker who had spent decades around Saudi infrastructure projects said the pipeline route reminded him of something else entirely, something he hadn't seen since the early days of the kingdom's oil boom. But this wasn't oil moving through those pipes. It was seawater, millions of gallons of it, pumped inland day after day toward a destination still hidden from public view. Satellite imagery later revealed the pipeline stretching over 200 miles into the interior, far past any coastal town, far past any farmland. It ended at a location with no visible city, no visible industry, just open desert. And whatever was happening out there was only getting bigger. Word of the pipeline reached researchers outside the kingdom. One hydrologist studying satellite data from a university in Europe noticed something strange in the thermal imagery. The desert at the pipeline's endpoint was cooler than the surrounding sand, not by a little, by several degrees, in a region where daytime temperatures regularly pass 45 degrees Celsius. He checked the images again, certain it was an error. It wasn't. Something out there was absorbing heat differently than dry sand should. Around the same time, a geologist working on unrelated fieldwork in the region reported unusual readings in nearby borehole. Salinity levels in groundwater samples miles from the coast were rising. He assumed contamination from an old oil site, but the mineral signature didn't match crude oil at all. It matched seawater. That finding alone should have been impossible. The nearest coastline was over 300 kilometers away. Groundwater doesn't simply carry seawater that far inland, not naturally, not on its own. Something was moving it there deliberately. A former engineer, once contracted for infrastructure work in the region, said off the record that he'd heard talk of an underground facility unlike anything built before in the kingdom. He described enormous excavated caverns, reinforced walls, and a project so classified that most contractors only ever saw their small section of it. No one, he said, understood the full picture, not even the people building it. Whatever waited beneath that patch of desert wasn't just a pipeline terminus. It was something far larger, and the thermal images suggested it was still growing. Then came a discovery that changed everything. An environmental researcher, cross-referencing satellite data with old geological surveys, found something buried in decades-old records. The site the pipeline led to wasn't empty desert at all. It sat directly above one of the largest underground salt formations in the entire Arabian Peninsula. Layers of ancient salt, some over 1,000 meters thick, left behind from a sea that dried up millions of years ago. The researcher stared at the map for a long time before he understood what he was looking at. This wasn't a random location. It had been chosen. Drilling reports from energy companies working nearby confirmed it. The formation was riddled with vast hollow cavities, carved out over years by mining operations extracting salt for industrial use. Empty chambers, some large enough to hold entire buildings, sat deep beneath the surface, and now seawater was being pumped directly into them. A retired mining supervisor who once worked at a nearby facility said he remembered engineers surveying the abandoned salt caverns years earlier. At the time, he assumed they were checking for structural safety. He never imagined they were preparing the caverns for something else, something meant to hold millions of gallons of water, sealed away beneath the desert floor. But why would anyone go through this much trouble and this much expense just to store seawater underground? Desalination plants already existed along the coast. Storage tanks were far cheaper to build. There had to be a reason the water needed to go this deep, this far inland, into cavities carved from ancient salt. And when the researcher finally found that reason, it had nothing to do with drinking water at all. The answer came from an unexpected source. An energy analyst reviewing Saudi Arabia's renewable energy filings noticed a term buried inside a technical report: compressed air energy storage. At first, it meant nothing to him. Then he read further, and the pieces started falling into place. Saudi Arabia had been building an enormous solar and wind energy program across the desert. But renewable energy has a problem. The sun doesn't shine at night. The wind doesn't always blow. Without a way to store that energy, entire power grids can become unstable, or worse, go dark when demand peaks and generation drops. Engineers needed a massive storage solution, something capable of holding energy at a scale batteries alone couldn't match. The solution was hiding underground the entire time. Those hollow salt caverns, carved out over decades of mining, were being converted into giant pressure vessels. During the day, when solar and wind power surged, excess energy would compress air, and pump it deep into the caverns. At night or during peak demand, that pressurized air would be released, driving turbines and generating electricity for the national grid. But compressed air alone wasn't enough to stabilize the system. The caverns needed something to balance the internal pressure, something dense, abundant, and cheap to control the environment inside those chambers. Seawater. The ocean itself had been pumped hundreds of miles inland to help stabilize one of the largest energy storage systems ever built. An engineer working on the grid modernization project called it, quietly, the backbone of Saudi Arabia's clean energy future. But if this system worked as designed, it wouldn't just power desert cities. It could reshape how entire nations store renewable energy. And what happened next would prove far bigger than anyone expected. The first full test came 2 years after construction began. Grid operators watched the numbers closely as solar output dropped with the setting sun. If the system failed, entire regions could lose power during peak evening demand. Engineers held their breath as compressed air began releasing from the salt caverns. Turbines spun to life. Electricity flowed steadily into the grid without a single disruption. The seawater buffering system had worked exactly as designed, keeping pressure stable deep underground where no one could see it happening. For the fishermen near Jubail, the massive intake pipes were no longer a mystery. For the geologist who first noticed strange salinity readings, the pieces finally made sense. And for the retired mining supervisor, the abandoned caverns he once surveyed had become something far more important than he ever imagined. Saudi Arabia had turned an ancient seabed, dried up millions of years ago, into a modern solution for one of clean energy's hardest problems. The project drew quiet attention from engineers around the world. Similar salt formations exist beneath deserts in the United States, Australia, and parts of North Africa. If this model proved successful long-term, it could change how nations everywhere store renewable power. Not with massive batteries, not with fossil fuel backups, but with ancient geology, ocean water, and compressed air working together beneath the sand. What began as an unexplained pipeline cutting through empty desert turned out to be part of one of the most ambitious energy experiments on Earth. A hidden system built to keep the lights on long after the sun goes down. If you enjoyed uncovering this story, subscribe for more real-world mysteries hiding in plain sight.